All right. Hello. Hello, everybody. I don't think there's many people, if anybody, in here right now, which is okay. I haven't streamed in a long time. This is absolutely an out of nowhere stream, out of the blue, right? I don't think there's many people. I don't want to hear myself. But we're going to stick around for a little bit. We're just going to hold off on talking. You know, let people, whoever wants to join in, hop into stream. We'll see what happens, but hello. Hello, everybody. Wow, I look tired. Man, you know, when I'm at work, right? When I'm at work, and I look in the mirror in the restroom, or even when I'm getting dressed for the day, all I see are eye bags. That's all I see. And then I'm at work, and it's like nobody sees the bags under my eyes. I don't get it. Am I that hard on myself? I swear I have eye bags. I swear. I see it. I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. I swear. Anyway, howdy everybody. My name's Desperate. Welcome to a stream that I've never actually quite done before. But I saw the last 3 episodes of ANDOR, and we're gonna talk about it. So if you haven't watched ANDOR, if you plan on watching ANDOR, you don't want anything spoiled or anything like that, do not watch this until later. And if you don't want to watch it later because you forget or you're not interested, whatever, that's fine. Watch ANDOR first. Watch ANDOR first. Please do yourself the favor. Unbelievable. This is going to be a full dissertation, a full talk about the show, specifically the last season. There's so much to say. There's so much to say, but let me first ping my Discord. Am I still, by the way, being shown on camera? I think I am. I think I am. Yeah, I am. Okay, good. I don't want to have it at 720p because that'll ruin the bitrate at everyone. Streaming and/or review. Full spoilers. Full spoilers. There we go. All right. Last warning. Actually, I'm at the... Also, I just realized you can see my green screen, can't you? Yeah, you can. I didn't really think about this. Let's... Hold on. I need... Wait a minute. I didn't think this went through. I just wanted a green screen behind me. So we're going to do something a little crazy here. We're going to do something never before seen. I'm going to do it live on camera. But while I'm setting up the background... Hey, Flames! What's going on? How are ya? Welcome, welcome. Flames, if you want to watch the show ANDOR, do not watch the stream. If you don't care, watch, stick around, please. But, let's start with the beginning, right? Let's start with the beginning of the show. And I have a very controversial take. The first half season, the first 4-5 episodes, up until after the eye, were not good. They just weren't. Also, how you doing today, Flames? What's up? How goes it? How goes it today, my friend? Ooh, this is a good video. Yes, hello. How are you today? Want to download this? Let's do 1080p. Okay. The first few episodes of ANDOR were not good. I did not like them. I did not enjoy them. To me, it felt more like a interpersonal drama than anything. I think it could have done more with the ISB and everything else. And I know it sounds stupid, but the first few episodes of ANDOR's show, like the actual running of the show, could have, in my opinion, done better. Okay, I'm prepping for finals, so as good as that gets. Understood. Good luck on final. You're going to do great. You're going to do... What the heck? What happened to my music? Hey, what happened to my music? Where'd my music go? Where'd my music? What? Oh, no, it got rid of my music. No. Oh, it's right here. Sorry. I have to go into Streamlabs now and add in that video. But yeah, so the first few episodes of ANDOR were not for me. They just weren't. I did not enjoy them. I thought they were... You had too much interpersonal drama for my own personal liking. And I get it. You needed it. You needed to see it all happen. You need to yada, yada, yada. It just wasn't for me. The rest of the season was great. I mean, Narkina was undisputed in terms of quality. It really was. You know, call me crazy. I think Narkina, out of all of the plot lines, was the most Star Wars, right? But we're gonna get into that. Don't worry, we're gonna get into that because there was some discussions I had recently in my own personal life that were very interesting to me. So we're gonna get into that. But no, Narkina I felt was perfect in the sense of it was everything that the show was trying to do, if that makes sense, but in a much better way. So, for example, sorry, hold on. We're going to take this. I know there's a big thing of space on me right now. Don't you worry. I know. I want to go here, and I want to go to filters, edit filters, and I want to... Where is it? Close. I haven't done this in a long time, so I apologize. Filters, edit filters, none. Oh yeah, that's what this is. Sorry, I'm trying to get the green screen away. I'm trying to change that. I don't want that. I want... Oh, chroma key. There we go. Ah! Beautiful. Okay. And then we can take the media file, put it down here, go to properties and loop, and it's good. Beautiful. Okay, we're good. We're good. All right. Whew, we're good. So, yes, it is part of Star Wars Flames. Yes, we're talking about Andor. Andor is a Star Wars show that was on Disney+, and it just ended, right? So, again, there are full spoilers in this stream. If you haven't seen the show yet or the last few episodes and you plan on it or you want to see it without any spoilers, watch it. Watch it before watching any of this stream or anybody else's, for that matter. I don't care what anybody says. Watch this show before you watch anything else. So, this Teddy. Hold on. Nope, it's over here. Teddy. Okay. So, Narkina, the first 3 episodes, I wasn't a fan of. Narkina 5, one of the best Star Wars ever, and it was very Star Wars. I get it. I understand why people weren't into it, especially when you think about history and the kind of things that it used and all that as inspiration. I get it. I do. And I don't want to act like I'm blind to that. I'm not. But the way it was done, the implications to the universe it had, and kind of, even then, the interpersonal drama was done in a very Star Wars way, right? It was almost reminiscent to me of Rebels, where you get a lot of side characters, where there's a whole episode focused on the side character, but you know at the end of the day, you're not watching this because of the side characters. You're watching this because of Andor, because of the show itself. So, that was great, and then the rest of Season 1 was awesome. You get to Gorman. Alright? So, Gorman in and of itself is completely different. You know what I mean? There's nothing like that in Star Wars. The Gorman Massacre was special. And not just to Star Wars, but to television in general. And I really do mean that. I really do. I think the next time that we're going to see something like that in television, it's going to have to come from some unknown, unexpected thing, like how this did. And you look at all the review channels, right? Not that YouTube film reviewers are the be-all, end-all. They're not. But You look at everybody talking about episode 8 online, right? You look at everybody talking about season 2, episode 8, 7, and 9 of Andor, and nobody has much bad to say. There are bad things to say. Don't get me wrong. I think episode 7 was dragged on a little bit, I guess, by like 2 minutes. You know, like, they're very nitpicky things to talk about when it comes to what they could have done better. Okay, me personally, hot take, but tier list, baseball's Star Wars, above Star Wars. I mean, I get it. I get it. I can't personally really argue too much with that. I'm a Star Wars nerd, but hey, I get it. I would actually agree with that to a very small extent. Very small extent. But yeah, Spaceballs is, you can't go wrong with Spaceballs. Spaceballs the TV show, Spaceballs the movies, Spaceballs t-shirts, Spaceballs mural. Can't go wrong with Spaceballs. I'm glad that you know that reference, by the way, though. I'm glad that you know what Spaceballs is. That's an older movie. But let's focus on how they wrapped everything up, because you could talk a long time about the show and the way it's filmed and everything else, but if it doesn't stick the landing, then it's, you know, it's forgettable, and it's kind of whatever Star Wars media at the end of the day. I love comedy over seriousness, to be fair, and that's fair. That's totally fine. That's actually kind of something I want to touch on, ironically enough, Flames. This show has extremely little levity. Since it's probably going to go cause spoilers, and I got no clue about this movie. That's fair. That's fair. I mean, it's a show, but since I'm probably going to go, but yeah. Yeah, go watch it. Go watch it. Go watch it some other time. Everything else, go do your thing, Flames. No worries. Do not spoil this for yourself. So, have a good day. Thank you for jumping into stream, by the way. We're going to do a gaming stream, hopefully tomorrow. I do have my day off of work tomorrow, so. But, now that we're 11 minutes in, let's actually talk. So let's start with the claim that this isn't Star Wars. That Andor isn't what Star Wars should be. I have a serious problem with that. You too, Flames. Thank you so much. Have a great night. I hope to see you soon. I have a serious issue with the claim that Andor isn't Star Wars. Beyond the feel of it, beyond the cosmetics, beyond the plot lines and everything else, oh, here comes yawning, sorry. There is a serious fundamental idea of Star Wars running through the show all the way up, even until Cyril's death. What do I mean by that? Cyril was not a hero. Cyril was the foil to Andor, I think you could argue, and I think that'd be very good. One lives by the book, the other doesn't live whatsoever by the book, doesn't even think about the book, doesn't even consider it. And as such, you will always mentally, even if not aware of it, you're always going to be kind of comparing the two. They're the two main male leads in the show. As such, more than that, they're two... What's the word? They're two characters that the writing for tries to kind of push in a certain direction not everybody can easily keep up with, right? And I don't mean that as a knock or a negative thing. I mean that as literally not everybody is able to keep up with. Oh, here's why I don't do live streams very often. Not everybody is able to very much keep up with the fact that Cyril is in Star Wars. And it's understandable, by the way. And this isn't me trying to make a claim as though I'm othering people. What I'm trying to say is, Cyril would belong in The Godfather. Cyril would belong in NCIS, or House of Cards especially, right? he is not a classical Star Wars character. Now, the way he lived wasn't very Star Wars-y. But what do I mean by Star Wars-y, or like a Star Wars character belongs to Star Wars? What I mean is, there is an underlying idea in Star Wars of good versus evil. When you bring in ambiguous gray, ambiguous morality, you end up with this conflated sense of not everybody on one side has it right or has it wrong, right? And that is very true for everything in all of history and ever since mankind was created by God. There is no completely evil side in war. There just isn't. There are evil people. There are people who I think allow themselves to be possessed and corrupted to the point of being evil. But that is not to say that there are sides, two sides, completely good, completely bad. That just doesn't happen. You're always going to have the gray in life. So, bringing a character like Cyril in, it causes this conflict with the idea of Star Wars. Going back to the original trilogy, episodes 1 to 3, even 7 to 9, as controversial as those are, and you look at some of the cartoons, Rebels, you look at some of the series, Mandalorian, there are a lot of good versus evil with nearly zero ambiguity inside of those two sides, those shows, those medias that it's showing. When you have somebody like Cyril, you need to approach it from the sense of this is a character in a universe where the main idea is good versus bad, is right versus wrong. And yet we want to make him ambiguous. That's fine with his morality, but how do you end his storyline that still keeps the heart of Star Wars true? And I think the way that you do that is by allowing him to corrupt himself. Living by the book is perfectly fine. I mean, to an extent, you always have to go off the book in life, but you will always need to throw out rules, right? Rules are there to be broken. Rules are there to be followed. That's just the nature of the beast. When Cyril sees Andor during the massacre, he's not seeing Andor. Because he's really not. He is. I'm not saying physically, but what's the word? Respectively? No. Metaphorically. Metaphorically, he's seeing hatred. He is seeing the embodiment of his failures. He is seeing blame. He is seeing suffering. He is seeing how things could have been. And instead of confronting that, instead of being able to process it, instead of wanting to better himself, he decided, I am going to push all my blame, all my hate. I'm going to put my all when it comes to hate into this one person. And by throwing it all onto Andor, you're left with the dark side. Let's just stop and think for a second. Cyril sees Andor during the massacre, runs over, tackles him. They're in a scuffle, but instead of fighting, he talks and just says whatever the dialogue would have been, right? You could have bloviated and say, have Cyril go to Andor, something along the lines of, if it wasn't for you, this wouldn't be happening. If it wasn't for you, all these people would have been alive. If it wasn't for you, if it wasn't for you, it wasn't for you. And that would have allowed a dialogue. And having that dialogue could have led to the understanding that he's disillusioned now of the Empire. At this point, he sees the Empire for what it is. He sees that the fact that he was not just a cog, but the cog in this massacre behind his back by his girlfriend. And if it wasn't for him, this wouldn't be happening. He would be faced with that and have to understand, whether I was involved or not, this is the case now. Yes, my life could have been differently, and it could have been differently with you, but I can still make a difference in the Rebel Alliance. Because he doesn't... When Cyril is fighting Andor, there is no thought process of this is the right thing to do. There is no reality where Cyril thinks he's doing the right thing by fighting Andor. He's doing this for petty, selfish revenge. That is the crux of the dark side. It just is. Use your hate. Use your suffering. Allow it to fester into power. And he overpowers Andor because of that hate. That is as Star Wars gets. And when I hear people say that Cyril's death was useless, pointless, unnecessary, not Star Wars, not befitting for Star Wars, I just sit there and think you could not be more wrong. Because you're looking at this as a political show. You're looking at this like House of Cards, like Game of Thrones. This is not either of those shows. This is a Star Wars show. Yes, it is a Star Wars show set in reality. Not set, but grounded in reality. Yes, this is a Star Wars show that has motive. That has ideas that you will not see in other Star Wars shows. That is all fact. That is all true. It just hurt my jaw. I don't know how I did that. But the death of Cyril, it's as Star Wars as it gets. You look at what would have happened if Vader had not been spared by Luke. He would have died the same way. The death of Count Dooku, killed by Vader, by Anakin. Same reasons. Using the hate, using the suffering, the pent-up rage. So many countless characters were killed because of that pull to the dark side. And Cyril is that embodiment in Andor. It's no coincidence, therefore, that the, to be blunt, pointless death of Cyril, because it was pointless, you know, I guess it wasn't pointless, because if it wasn't for his death, Andor probably would have died. But you get the point what I'm saying here. The death of rage and hatred that Cyril experienced did not have to be, but yet it was experienced by somebody who was being pulled to the dark side. Meanwhile, you have Andor, who didn't die out of rage, didn't die out of hatred, but died out of sacrifice. And you see how much of an impact that has. Andor's death in Rogue One led to Episode 4 and the destruction of Death Star. Cyril's death in Episode 8, Season 2 of Andor led to nothing. And it's no coincidence that those two characters experienced those two virtues of death in such foiling ways. So, should you ever hear anyone say that the death of Cyril was pointless or needless or had no elements of Star Wars in it, just remember, Cyril only died because he allowed his hate to get the better of him and fight Andor, and was too distracted, too blinded by his rage, by his anger, to not see whatever that Gorman rebel guy was named. Whatever, the father of some of the Gore, who were part of the Rebel Alliance. He didn't see him. He didn't notice him. And Andor certainly didn't care to save him, because here he is being attacked by the guy, so what does he care if he dies? If it wasn't for that hatred and rage, then, to be blunt, Cyril would have lived. I truly think that. And I think he would have joined the Rebel Alliance. Would it have been realistic? No. But that very idea of dying due to your consumption within your own hatred, it cannot get more Star Wars than that. It just can't. So, yes, the show is still Star Wars. And to bring that forward, again, this is a full spoiler show, or live stream about the show, excuse me. The death of Luthen. Okay? Okay. The death of Luthen. Having Luthen die the way he did was brilliant. Unceremonious. After being the last thing he knew, he was killing himself. He was in control of his own destiny. And yet, here he is, basically being forced to live by the Empire because they need to interrogate him. And then, what the heck is her name? His assistant, not Kara. Doesn't matter. Cyril's assistant comes in. Again, full spoiler warning. It says it twice on the thing. I should really put it up here somewhere. Full spoilers. But yes, Luthen's assistant comes in and kills him, but doesn't kill him with a blaster or an explosion or anything like that. Kills him with a quiet death. Just, you've done your part, rest. On one hand, you can make the argument that this is not a Star Wars death, right? That the self-sacrifice was done in a way that is gritty and dark and depressing and everything else, and he didn't get the fanfare he deserved. Take that a step back. His sacrifice was not in vain. He died getting the intel of Death Star to Yavin, which then led to the retrieval of the plans, which then led to Episode 4. Again, Cyril's death was pointless. It didn't lead to anything. He was consumed by hate and suffering and anger, and his death was pointless. Luthen, the exact opposite. As he said in Episode 10, bottle it and hold on to it. He held on to that hate and anger, and he controlled it. He was in control of his destiny at the end of the day. No, not in his way of his death. He failed at killing himself. But Luthen was still able to say, I'm washing my hands of this. It's on to you guys now. I've done my part. I knew they were coming for me. I knew what the idea was. I'm ready. And his death was, while unceremonious, was worth it. He made his life and death worth it. Cyril did not. Cyril just did what he was told, and that's fine. You can certainly do what you're told and still make your life and death worth it. That's all I'm saying. What I'm saying is, he did what he was told, but he never allowed himself the opportunity to see past himself. He never took control of his own destiny. He did by getting with Dedra, absolutely, and sure, smaller moments in his life, but his life ended in the way that it was meant to. Unfortunately, because he couldn't get past himself. He couldn't get past his rage. And these are all themes that you see, again, Rebels, Kanan. You look at Kanan Jarrus, right? Kanan's... Hey Jack. Welcome to the stream. Thank you. I'm glad you're enjoying the commentary. If you want to jump in at all, please feel free. Absolutely feel free to jump in and chat up. But hello and thank you for joining the stream. I hope you enjoy. Kanan's death was unceremonious. Okay, I'm gonna make a bold claim here. Kanan Jarrus' death was unceremonious. He died in front of the Ghost Squad. There was no fanfare. There was really very little in the way of bringing his death into the realm of other people's lives. Yet, his death led to the saving of Ezra, which was able to be used to help fester the rebellion, allow Captain Rex and all the other guys to save Lothal from Imperial rule, and eventually lead to more in-depth connections with the rebellion to the point of seeing Hera in the rebellion. Were it not for Kanan allowing himself to be sacrificed, none of that would have been possible. The death of... Oh, what the heck? The death of... I don't remember his name, but the death of the guy in charge of the ISB is another really good example of how Andor is Star Wars at the end of the day. You have... Let's look at the Empire for a moment in the last 3 episodes of Season 2. You have Cyril, who allows himself to be consumed by his rage, and he dies. Pointless. Nothing happens. You have Luthen, who kept his rage in control. He dies. It was worth it. You have the guy in charge of the ISB. I forget his name, but the guy with the gray hair, older gentleman. I think you know what I'm talking about. Talks with Krennic in the end of episode, I think, 11, maybe midway through 12. I think the end of 11, or midway through 11 of Season 2 of Andor. And how does he die? Kills himself alone in his office with a blaster. Not only is it unceremonious, he's doing it out of fear. Okay? The death of, I think is it Perrin? It might be Perrin. I don't know. Doesn't matter. The death of the guy in charge of the ISB was a death fueled by fear. So you have anger with Cyril, fear with the ISB guy. 2 right there. Both of which are attributes of the dark side. Andor lived with no fear. He had hate in him for sure, but like Luthen, he was able to bottle up the hate and rage and use it for good. But the lack of fear in Andor, it's another foil. Now, I'm not saying that the guy in charge of the ISB was a foil to Andor. That was 110% Cyril. Those 2 characters were meant to complement each other. But the head of the ISB was so full of fear to the point where, and by the way, I don't know much about acting. Amazing actor. Amazing. You can see the fear in his eyes. You can feel the shaking in his voice. And you can just, the anticipation, the anxiety is palpable with him right before his death in episode 12. It's unbelievable how Star Wars these attributes are. I didn't repeat the thing. That's why I got off track. Sorry. It's unbelievable how Star Wars these elements are at the end of the day, but you have to look through between the lines, and that's where I feel people are missing it. My inner circle, the people at my job that I talk with who watch Star Wars, and even some people online have made the claim countless times that Andor doesn't feel like Star Wars. You're not thinking about Star Wars as a genre. This is a completely separate subject. I think that Star Wars should be reconsidered as a franchise and more so like a genre. That's for another video another day, when I'm not streaming and just vomit mouthing words. I'm just speaking off the top of my head here, but you look at Star Wars as a genre and you see this idea of good versus evil with very little black and white in the meaning of life. The people, the individuals, the day-to-day is nothing but morally gray. And we see that in Rogue One. We see that in Andor. We see that in every show, maybe save for Resistance, but I can't stand Resistance, so I only got through half of the first episode, so I can't even speak properly on that. But the best example of what I'm saying is the death of the guy in charge of the ISB. He knows what's coming. He knows he is doomed to die. He failed. He is not long for the world. He's going to go out on his own terms, and it's that control. Again, the dark side, control, power over his own destiny, power over what happens to him. Not Luthen, who, while he tried to have control and power, he failed to kill himself, and as such was then brought into the hospital by the ISB and the Empire. There's a difference. He obviously expected to die, absolutely, but there's a difference between doing it because you are at the end of your mission, you've done everything right, now it's up to you, versus I am scared. I'm scared of what's coming. I don't want to face with the repercussions of my actions, and I don't want to have to face the consequences of my life. I'm going to go out and take 100% control and not leave anything to more or less chance. That control, the dark side. But it's ironic because you have all these examples of the dark side, right? You have fear, anger, control, power. And then you get somebody like Dedra. I don't know what to think about Dedra. I really don't. I think her living was... the fact that they allowed Dedra to survive the series, they could not have made a better choice. They really, truly couldn't have with her. That was perfect because she has to now... She's a difficult one for me. Dedra was happy. You could see it. She was happy with Cyril. She found her place. She found her person. She found the fact that, you know, here's this guy. He puts all of his faith and trust and effort into me. I'm able to kind of control how his mother Anakin acts in front of him. And more than anything, she was good for Cyril. I don't... Sorry, shaking the camera here. I don't want to get too weird and personal with this, right? I know what it feels like to be on the... I don't want to say this. I know how it feels like to be in Cyril's shoes when it came to him and Dedra. And I heard a lot of people calling the relationship weird. Oh, it's so weird, so weirdest they've ever seen. It's the most uncomfortable relationship in Star Wars and everything else. I honestly, truly, in my heart of hearts, believe that Dedra was good for Cyril. That sounds awful. I get why I do, right? She was a toxic girlfriend to him with no question, no two ways about it. She was 100% in the long run bad for him, mainly because she used him to kill and massacre more or less an entire people on a planet. But if you put that aside, you look at their personal relationship, she was good for him. She was able to keep his mother reined in. She was able to give him a sense of security that he hadn't had before. She loved him. She did. I really do believe it. I do think that she loved Cyril. There was so much good that she did for him, and yet she didn't see it. And that's what fascinated me the most. I'm going to roll up my sleeves here. I'm actually getting a little hot from all this because I didn't realize I had this much to say. I apologize. That's what gets me the most about Dedra, as far as feeling like she did deserve it at the end. Ignore everything she did. Ignore the Gorman massacre. Ignore all of it. You look at just her relationship. He relied on her. She made him rely on him, but he did know. He knew it. Cyril knew that she, in their personal relationship, in their romantic life, she was in charge of power dynamics and security and safety and happiness. He knew that, but he was okay with it. He absolutely was. He needed it. He knew that. She abused that trust. And that's what's so unique about their relationship, is it did such a good job of showing a healthy and toxic relationship in the same thing. Maybe I am biased because of what I went through in my life from 19 to 22, 2019, 2022, without getting too much into it, but they needed each other, but for different reasons. He needed her because she completed him. She really did. She needed him because she needed I'm sorry to say it, a pet. She did not see him as her boyfriend, as her husband, as anything like that. Maybe a little bit, but not to the extent he saw her. She saw him as a plaything. Dedra abused the trust that he put in her, and he knew how she was with the power dynamic, but he didn't know how she was personally. That alone is worth... spoilers. That alone is worth Dedra being thrown into Narkina. I'm just saying. Hot take. Alright. That alone was worth it, but you take into account more than just the fact that she trained Cyril to trust her and then abuse that trust and use it to a degree that should never be used against another human being. And then you add in the, mass murdering of entire people. You add in the fact that Dedra took control of a political atmosphere to a degree that can only be seen as evil. There is no mincing words about the Gorman massacre. It was an evil plot from beginning to end, and she was the puppeteer of it. She was the puppet master of all the workings. Yes, that is worthy of Narkina. I don't know if it's Narkina 5, 4, 3. I don't know if that's the name of the planet. I just know the prison is Narkina, or on the planet or Narkina. Dedra 100% deserved Narkina. Not just because of what she did to poor Cyril, but also what she did to the Gorman people. And I think by not killing Dedra, you show that evil gets to live. You can have the argument at that point of the death penalty. And you will always have politics in Star Wars. Real world versus fictional. That is ingrained in the DNA of Star Wars. And it's no coincidence, I think, that Dedra got to live at the end of the day in Andor, albeit in prison for the remainder of her life, we assume anyway, and the death of the guy in charge of the ISB was so just ceremonious, was so unimpactful, because that's how it is in real life. You get these on and off, 1, 2, this person who should have deserved X, Y, or Z, and that person. It's all metaphors at the end of the day. It really is, whether we like it or not as Star Wars fans. George Lucas did it. Filoni does it. Favreau does it. Kennedy does it. Gilroy does it. They all do it because that's what Star Wars is. And that's why I partly say Star Wars should, in a way, be its own genre. Because it goes beyond the good versus evil. It goes beyond all that. It goes into metaphors for reality, myths, legends, ideas of grandeur, heroes and villains. It is something special that no other franchise has really been able to tap into, at least not as effectively. And the last 3 episodes of Andor prove it. So you have the death of the guy in charge of the ISB. You have the death of Cyril. You have the imprisonment of Dedra. And then the saving of Luthen's assistant. I wish I remember. I know it starts with either C or K. I forget. But she is probably the character that best resembles, to me anyway, in my opinion, the light side of the Force. She put everything into Luthen, into the rebellion. She put her sacrifice into all of it. But she never really went to the extent Luthen did. She did a lot of things that put her on the line. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that she didn't put her, pay her penance for being a part of the early rebellion. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is, were it not for her, the rebellion would not exist. And notice how many times we say that, right? Were it not for Luthen, were it not for Andor, were it not for, I guess, Mon Mothma to a much lesser extent, were it not for Bail, were it not for all of them, the rebellion would not exist. But her specifically, she just has something about her that is sacrifice, selflessness, love, not getting attached but still having compassion. They are traditional Jedi values that Luthen's assistant holds, that all the way through to the end of the series, she still holds true to herself. She is the embodiment of the light side of the Force in this show. And you compare that to Cyril, someone who allowed himself to get corrupted, who allowed himself. Cyril is more like Anakin in terms of the dark side of the Force than anybody else in the show. Andor is more like, I guess, Ahsoka, but whatever. And I hate drawing these comparisons because you're comparing apples to oranges in a sense. But the point remains that the Force works inside of Andor. Yes, Andor does not need the Force. Andor, the show, there is no need to have a Force user, choke another person or push another person or lightsaber battles. There's no need for that in the show because that's not what it's trying to show. It's showing you the Force works in mysterious ways. The Force works in and out of Force users. It binds, it attracts, and it holds everything together, and you see that in the decisions that the characters make and the repercussions that they experience in their lives. Cyril was a part of the dark side, whether he meant it or not, whether he wanted it or not, and it's because of Dedra, and Dedra was a part of the dark side, but she kind of knew that, not in the sense of like the Force, but she knew what she was getting into, and she allowed it to take over her life. She paid the repercussions for that. Cyril paid the repercussions for that. Andor pays the repercussions for selflessness. His death in Rogue One is as classic, well, not classic, I guess more modern Star Wars as it gets, i.e. Qui-Gon Jinn. He doesn't die because, he just decided to do this, and this. He dies because the Force willed it to happen. He died because that's his destiny. By Bix leaving him, it allows him to experience the end. And note, were it not for Andor, the plans would not have gotten into the hands of Leia, and Episode 4 wouldn't have happened, and he wouldn't have gotten there were it not for Bix leaving him and finding another man and having a child with him. The Force does not exclude shows like Andor. It does not exclude shows like Resistance. Again, I've never watched Resistance. I can only assume it has similar ideas as Andor when it comes to the Force. How the fact that while it's not focused on Jedi or Sith or things like that, It still has ideas that the way the Force works leads to balance. But all these people are a part of that balance. Even Saw Gerrera. They did Saw so good in this show. It is so awesome how they did Saw in Andor Season 2. And I think he's probably their crowning achievement when it comes to consistency. Excuse me. Because there was just so much there that deserved to be there. And having him overlook the city of Jeddah from afar was... It was serendipitous. It really was. I think that was meant to be Cassian's kid. Oh! Oh! I didn't catch that! Oh gosh, I don't know if there needs to be another Andor running around the galaxy after Rogue One. I think... Okay. Alright, Jack. Thank you for the asterisk there. I hadn't considered that. That's such a good point. Wow, that... I mean, well... If that's the case... Which, now that you say it, that makes perfect sense. She went back to the farm planet. I forget the name of it. With, is it B2, the droid? Raised her and Cassian's son, or daughter, child, raised their kid on the farm planet in a peaceful part of the galaxy, albeit still under Imperial rule. So, okay. Is that set up for future content then? I'm just saying, if that's the case, if that is supposed to be Andor's kid that she's holding on to, which makes sense now. It will be a year later. I don't have a kid, I'm gonna be honest, and I don't remember being a year old, but I guess that looked like about a year-old child, and that was a year after they saw each other last. That makes perfect sense. You know, would have had birth in 3 months, 4 months in. So, well, I guess the kid would have been really like closer to 4 or 5 months, whatever. I guess that makes sense. That Jack, thank you. That's a good point. Okay, so now there could be an Andor Jr. show, which I think would be hilarious. Can you imagine if it ends up where that kid is in the First Order? Well, hold on. No. There wouldn't be any overruling government aside from the New Republic by the time that the kid is raised. I mean, maybe in teenage years it would still be the Empire, but by the point it gets to Cassian's age, I think the New Republic would be the only governing body in the galaxy up until the First Order appears. So no, that kid is, if that's Andor's kid, it's 100% being part of the New Rebellion. Oh, by the way, I got off a little bit of a tangent. A little bit of a tangent there. Poe Dameron is just... Whoa, wait a minute! New headcanon! Jack, I like it. New headcanon. Poe Dameron is Cassian Andor's child. The ages look like they match perfectly. I like it. That's my new headcanon. I'm gonna say that from now on. I don't care what anybody says. And that makes perfect sense, because what I was about to say was, you think about the way... So, okay. Andor's response, or talking to the... I don't know what to call it. The conglomerate of suits and ties, right? Bail Organa, Mon Mothma, the lady in the white dress, the Admiral Akbar species alien guy. You look at all of them, right? And the way he talked to them... By the way, they show the perfect... The writing in this show, the dialogue, I think if you want to see how good the dialogue in Andor is, watch that scene again and really think about the point of view of each character. Because when I was watching that... Now, mind you, obviously, I've only seen it once, but from the point of view of Mon Mothma, she wants to believe in Andor so badly, but she can't. Because she knows Luthen. She knows how he was. Right? She knows exactly things he did. So she's just going to stay on the sideline because everybody knows that she's more or less she's gonna look at this subjectively from her own point of view, no matter how much she wants to not, right? And Bale says as much, but you look at the way Bale says it. He doesn't discount Andor. Bail Organa never says you're wrong to Andor, never once. He says Luthen could not have been trusted. I get it. Luthen died, and he died for this information. I understand. But you yourself cannot tell me with a straight face that you have hard proof about this, and therefore you 100% believe it just because Luthen died to get us this intel. That is exactly what you would expect from Bale, right? The lady in the white dress who never met him, she knows the story. She knows of Luthen and the things that he's done. So she's going to be skeptical. She's going to be, I don't know about this. This is ridiculous. Whatever. I didn't know him. He wasn't important to me. It doesn't matter. It is what it is. And then the guy, the alien guy, I forget Admiral Akbar's species, and the way that he talks is just so powerful from his point of view again. And nobody ever, it never feels like he wouldn't say that, she wouldn't say that, or, you know, I can't believe that they had this character say this for any reason. I never got that feeling. Now let's think about Poe Dameron. Let's think about Poe Dameron for a second, right? Poe, oh, I gotta change that April. We didn't hit the April membership. Hold on, I gotta clip my fingernails. I'm sorry. The April membership goal. We didn't hit that. I gotta change that to May. Anyways, sorry. Total sidebar. ADD. Squirrel. Poe Dameron was the exact same way. Respected authority up until authority got ridiculous. Didn't like the way certain things were run and knew that it could be bettered and could be changed. I think, Jack, you're onto something. I think that was Poe Dameron, and Poe Dameron is Cassian Andor's kid. I don't care what backstory they gave Poe in any sort of comic or anything I haven't read yet. He's the son of Cassian Andor, full stop. He's the hero of the New Republic, I guess. Even though, you know, sequels are a little bit of a different discussion. But, whatever. So, am I missing any big plot points? You had the death of the ISB, which, by the way, the ISB, it didn't hit me until recently that the ISB isn't really a new thing. That the Internal Security Bureau, it's been a thing since even Rebels, with Grand Moff Tarkin being a security officer. That never really clicked in me, and I guess even back in A New Hope and everything, they had like security detail officers. That, I don't know, that just kind of like, oh, the ISB isn't a brand new thing. Maybe the way they implemented it, but not the actual idea. Oh, by the way, speaking of the death of the excuse me, the head of the ISB, one of the most powerful moments in this season for me was you hear the blaster bolt, you're looking at the secondary guy outside of the room waiting to take the head down to more or less a trial. Stormtroopers hear the blaster bolt, they jump, but the guy just... That was... It's hard to describe what I felt, because you're supposed to hate these people, right? You're supposed to, and with good reason. But even in the most evil, awful, atrocious bureaucracies and fascist governments and regimes, even in the wildest fever dreams of those who want a power fantasy of an evil government in fiction, there is still camaraderie between soldiers. He understood what he was going through. He knew what the head of the ISB had on his mind and on his shoulders, and he knew what was going to happen, and he mourned. He mourned. He kept the stormtroopers in line. Just, this is how it's meant to be. It's okay. And he was saddened. It's so weird, and it made me think of a cult, because you think about the fact that cult members, when they kill themselves, it's a lot of times it's the right thing to do. They are saving the world or the planet or universe or whatever the cult thinks of, right? Yet here in this government alone, it's so Godfather-like, because it's just like, I don't know how to describe it, but it was so fascinating to me. It was so fascinating and so powerful to me that no matter how evil these people are, they're still people at the end of the day. That just stuck out to me. And, by the way, Luthen sacrificing himself with a sacrificial dagger. Serendipitous. Sorry, Jack. I saw your comment just a second ago. Thoughts on Luthen killing his ISB mold? Guy had a wife and kid. Okay. So, I was stunned by that. I really was. I shouldn't have been. But thinking about it after seeing the episodes, it does make perfect sense, right? Because here's Luthen, and he says to his assistant, what were the exact words? We've run, something along the lines of, we've run out of perfect. Or we've used up all perfect. He knows he's not getting out of this. He knows for a fact that he's gone. He's dead. This is the way his life was meant to end. As such, alright. In the moment, I'll tell you what I was feeling. In the moment, I was stunned. And I was shocked. I was trying to figure out why they would have him do that. But when I was sitting there in retrospect, it kind of made sense to me. He's been tugging these strings all along. And he's had 100 different strings on 100 different fingers on 100 different hands, right? And he's been able to involve in every single tug of the string. Here's, for a perfect example, the audio recorder transmitter on the underside of the, was it a bowl or some funeral thing when Mothma and Krennic were having their verbal spout, right? And where the heck was I going with this? Yeah. Right, sorry. Totally lost my train of thought there. Is it 1 o'clock yet? It's 12:30. Sorry. You look at that, and he was directly involved in that. He was able to be anywhere in the galaxy at any given point, any given time, with any number of people. He was able to have things in concrete confirmed. If he wants something done, he could make sure in his own way that it got done, whether it was through the word of somebody else or through his own two eyes. Here's his mold. Here's his mold guy. Here's his guy in the ISB, and he just told him everything. And Luthen realizes he is not able to get the information from this guy unless he tells him a secret that cannot be shared. Now, think about it from the point of view of, I guess, a manager in a business, right? Your job is to make sure X, Y, and Z get done no matter what the cost is. You are going to be fired in the next, let's say, 3 days. Somebody comes up to you, tells you something that is going to affect everything a week from now. And you're not being fired because of bad management. You're being fired because, let's say, you have bad health. So you love this company. They've been with you for all your years. Are you going to let it be on its own? Or are you going to try your best to make sure that this last piece of the puzzle gets sorted out and you can make sure of it yourself? If you love the company, if you love what you're doing, if you love your work up until then, you're going to make sure that what needs to happen, happens. This guy, if he squeals, if he goes to anybody with the word Yavin, it's over. It's done. Goodbye, right? But you need him because otherwise the Empire wins. So, yeah, I call it a power move by Luthen. Call it him being control free. Call him, a lot of things. But one thing he was good at was getting the job done. And it is very in character for him to know I am dead tomorrow. This guy, if he lives, I'm not seeing him for the next 24 hours, and he's going to be out there. Nobody else is going to know what I just told him. Or rather, I should say, nobody's going to know the things I just told him. I have built this my entire life. I am not going to let this one guy slip and be the reason when I can't tell anybody else that this guy is a risk. I'm going to kill him. I don't know. I hate to say I understand, because like you said, the guy had a wife and kid. The guy has a family. He wanted security and safety for his family. That's all he wanted. But at the same time, he killed himself. He really did. Let's be totally honest here. If he didn't ask for any secret information, if his mole said, I am good with just telling this information, I'm not, I will take care of my own family, I'll run with them, I'm going to run from you for the rest of my life if I have to, but I'm going to take care of my family, I don't need any sort of secretive intel, I'm good, Luthen wouldn't have killed him. He just wouldn't have. But the guy's own, there you go, fear. That word keeps getting brought up again and again in my ramblings for the last hour, because it's prevalent in everybody in this show except for Andor, a few of the rebels, and Krennic, I guess. There's not many people without fear in the show, but I should say, unironically enough, in something that's not a convenience whatsoever, those people who have no fear are the ones that make out the best. Now, maybe not Krennic for obvious reasons, but still. And this guy, this mole in the ISB, the turncoat in the ISB, being killed by Luthen. If you didn't ask for specifics, if you didn't ask for security in your own fear, you wouldn't have died. You could have made sure that you and your family at least would have had your own destiny. But here's the issue. And this is also another piece of the pie that you have to consider. He was found. He was burned. They knew him. They knew that the guy was a mole. They knew he was working for Luthen. They knew that he was a turncoat. It's either you die from Luthen or you die from the ISB. I guess by going to by going to Luthen, at least now you can die with the feeling that, okay, Luthen knows my family is my priority. He knows they're out there and they need safety and security. My wife and my child are my number one priority. He knows this. I told him, even though he died, which I'm sure he wasn't happy about, obviously, he died knowing that his family isn't forgotten about. Now, were they forgotten about? Yes, because obviously Luthen couldn't tell anybody about the guy's family. But you can also make the argument that his assistant would eventually piece together that the mole was found and killed, and as such, maybe she'll send somebody to look over his family. You don't know. You know what I mean? But by having him talk to Luthen, by Luthen killing him instead of the ISB, you get this sense of, okay, there's a chance. So you're telling me there's a chance, right? It's another one of those morally ambiguous moments for a character that, while the small moments in his life were gray, in the end, he was a member of the light side. He was a good person, and he died doing the right thing. Maybe not the right means, but the right ends. But having the idea of do the means justify the ends? Again, different discussion. You know what I mean? That's a lot of this gets very philosophical, and that's where I talk about Star Wars being its own genre. You can't have Star Wars without philosophy. You can't have Star Wars without, not unfortunately, but you really can't have it without political metaphors for the real world. You can't have it without religious metaphors for the real world. You can't have it without anything pertaining to our real lives. Life will always mimic art, and art will always mimic life. People don't say that last part, but it's true. And in this case, it is just as true as anything else. So, yeah, I mean, I was sad the guy died. I really liked him. I thought his character arc was maybe a little lackluster, honestly. We didn't get a whole lot of in-depth detail about him as an individual. But we see him as a member of the Rebel Alliance, as a member of the ISB, and all the work that he was doing. I mean, he knew the game he was playing, and he knew what it could end up with. It's like Andor, you know? He knows it could end at any moment. So be it. You know, so what? Not to sound like that, but it is what it is. You played the game, this is the reward you get. So you can only be so sad, you know? And it's the same with Cyril. When I saw Cyril get killed, I was actually quite sad, because I related to Cyril on a lot of levels, and to see him die unceremoniously saddened me, but at the same time, it goes back to the idea of you do it to yourself. You need to keep a cool head in life. You need to be able to step in the moment away from yourself and say, is this worth it? Is my hatred taking over? Is my fear taking over? You can only be so sad. They did it to themselves. Had he talked with Andor, different story, you know? Had the mole not played the game, different story. But again, he played his part. The Force led him there. The mole was the reason why Luthen knew the information he knew. And Luthen knowing the information is the reason why his assistant did, which is why Andor did, which is why he went on to the mission on Rogue One, which is why they got the plans, which is why they went to Leia, which is why you get the whole episode 4. It is so... It's like poetry. It rhymes. You know? And it does. It really does at the end of the day. So, I don't know. These last 4 episodes, or last 3 episodes, were probably some of the best series finishing episodes I have seen in a long time. And by the way, Bix, we mentioned Bix briefly. Bix being on the farm planet was really good. I really liked that. She left to a place that Andor knows. So, should they ever want to meet again, at least in her mind, obviously, they can quite easily. She went with the child, whether it was Andor's or not. I think, Jack, you're right. I think that was implied to be Andor's kid in retrospect now. And I think that is Poe Dameron, 100%. But I think that makes sense, you know? I really do. I think that makes perfect sense for her character. Was it B2, I think? Or the droid. I'm sad we didn't get a whole lot more of the droid, but I'm glad that we got to see he's okay by the time that Rogue One happens. Krennic. I love Krennic. The actor for Krennic is so unbelievably talented. I need to watch some of his other work. We'll put it that way. I was stunned every time. He dominated the screen every time he was in frame. Just like in Rogue One. I was astonished. Unbelievable. Andor seamlessly going into Rogue One. Perfect. K2SO. I thought they did K2SO justice. I really like what they did with him. I found it was hilarious that he was gambling. I thought that was awesome. I really did. Like, here's this droid who theoretically should be able to do any number of mathematical calculations in his circuitry at any given moment, and yet he can't figure out why the guy would make the bets he did. I thought that was perfect. That's like, oh, it's so good. That is so Star Wars. I love it. I love it. What was the dream that Andor had? That I was a little confused about. I'll be honest. That confused. Was that supposed to be him as a kid? Was that supposed to be Bix? Was that supposed to be Luthen's assistant? Who was that? Was that him? Was he having a dream about when he was a kid? I don't know. I kind of lost the plot on that. I mean, it was a very small thing, but obviously everything in the show seems to have meaning. So I don't really understand what that was meant to represent. I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about that one. But anyway, oh, his sister. That's right. I'm sure that's one of those things that they were going to delve more into when they had the idea of having 4 more seasons, not 4 or 3 episodes per season in one season. I totally forgot about that. Thank you for the reminder. That goes back to the... I was not into the first half of season 1, and therefore I forget a lot about it. Although I say that and watch, that's probably in the last half of season 1. Okay, right, sister. That's right. So that's showing his sister still out there. I would assume then. And there's probably some sort of Force connection there. I mean, you would assume anyway. I don't know. That's interesting. Sister's still out there. That's cool. Or at the very least, he's having dreams of his sister. I would assume that's the power of the Force at work there. Right, the dream. Yeah, that kind of took me off, but But I just want to reiterate, Dedra going into Narkina is perfect. It's perfect. I love it. I love it so much. I wanna do a cosplay of the Narkina guard. I really do. He's just so like, yeah, the whole show. That's something else too. This show expanded the Empire in ways we haven't seen, I would argue, ever. There's argument to be made that Rebels with Thrawn and the different aspects of the Imperial Army and Security Bureau and everything, the Imperial Navy, that they expanded it a lot. But this show did so much for the Empire. I am actually very grateful for it, because while it's cool that the Rebels are the heroes and everything, we needed more background characters. We needed more than just a scanning crew, more than just the bridge crew or the officers. Like, we needed, here are the investigating guys, right? The what are they called? The technicians, I think they were called in some of the last episodes. Did you have your technicians X, Y, and Z in that like kind of deep gray uniform? You had the flight suit with that same coloring in the command center in Arkina. The guards, you had, I mean, for background characters, there was just every time like, oh, whoop, the Senate, the Senate guys. You had the Senate guys. What the heck? I forget what they were called, but the Imperial Senate guards were so cool looking. And not the Senate guards; those are from Force Unleashed. Was Bix's sister? It's like poetry; it rhymes. Yo, headcanon number 2. Well, wait a minute. Hold on. Wait. No. I don't like those two headcanons together. I don't like those headcanons together. Wait a minute. You know what? That would be flipping hilarious. That would be so funny. What is Bix's origin story? Did we find out in season 1? I don't remember. I'm gonna guess no, but I don't recall. I don't recall if Bix had an origin story. Shouldn't need one. But unresolved plot point. Gilroy, get on it. Oh, by the way, totally random. Totally random. But there have been a lot of people saying we're never going to get this again with Star Wars. I'm not going to call out other YouTubers. I'm not here for YouTuber drama. I'm really not. I love a lot of, if not all of the Star Wars community on YouTube. At the very least, the ones I watch, I love, you know. If I didn't, I wouldn't watch them. As well as the film reviewers on YouTube. And I'm not going to call anybody out as me agreeing or disagreeing with them. Also, I'm not big enough to have an impacting opinion on any of them either. So it's not like if I said anything, it'd be drama. But there are people on the internet that I have seen with a voice and a platform with Star Wars who have said a few times that we're never going to see this again. I couldn't disagree more. I actually have the exact opposite opinion. I think we're going to get an oversaturation of this type of show. The episode 8 of season 2 was the highest rated piece of Star Wars media ever. Full stop, period. We have not had a piece of Star Wars released to the public officially that has had that of good of a reception. Disney sees that. You need to think about Disney and Lucasfilm from the point of what they are, which is suit and ties. They see how much people loved Andor. They see the good it did for the Star Wars IP. And they saw what Gilroy was able to do with the budget he had, the people he casted, and what he was able to do with this nobody character and turn him into the biggest piece of Star Wars in modern history, like post-2010 history. I would go as far as to say this is bigger than The Force Awakens. Maybe not globally, maybe not socially, but as a Star Wars fan, Andor is bigger than The Force Awakens. I truly believe that because it's unifying. Andor Season 2 has unified the community in a way I have never seen. Personally, I'm 26. I've never seen the Star Wars community come together like this. And I don't mean that as like I'm chronically online and I'm watching all these people talk. I mean in the people I meet, the people I know, my coworkers, my friends, my family, my hobbyists, my fellow troopers, if you know, everybody who I talk to that sees Andor for what it is so behind it that Disney isn't going to ignore it. And I believe they're going to go more into that, which is great. We need more of it, but there was somebody on YouTube recently who said it best, and he said something along the lines of, I don't want 15 Andors. You know, we all love Andor. It's great, but it's great because it's a flash in the pan. We need more flashes in the pan, and I'm not saying we need more out of nowhere special moments, or we need, you know, series that have this out of nowhere popularity. We need series that have love and care and attention and pride put into them. We look at Clone Wars. You took Favreau, who was a disciple, basically, for lack of a better word, of Lucas, and you see what the Clone Wars turned into, what it did for the IP. You see Andor and what Gilroy did. I don't know Gilroy. I don't know what he did outside of Star Wars, but I can tell you right now, he wasn't very well known in the Star Wars community. And then what he did with a no-name character, it's amazing. You see The Mandalorian, right? This original idea, this character and story that is so unique and almost like Saturday morning cartoon style adventures every other episode. And what they were able to do there. We got more Mandor. We got Ahsoka, which is more Mandalorian because of that. We're going to get another Andor. We really are. I full-heartedly believe that. You can mark my words. You can clip this one day. We are going to get another series that is akin to Andor. I 110% stand by those words. We're going to get a serious, grounded, stressful, high stakes, or low stakes turning into high stakes show. Will it be the same? No. Will it be Gilroy? Probably not. Will it be another show? Anything like this? I can't imagine it will be. Matter of fact, I would even go as far to say we're going to get something like this that has to do with the second Death Star. Because and maybe that's just me speaking more out of hope than theory. Excuse me. Forgive me. But I think the second Death Star has always been overlooked in the Star Wars community, with good reason, mind you. Not Star Wars community, by Star Wars and the IP and the franchise, for good reason. It's just another Death Star, you know. There's no, like, huge conspiracy about it, but to a degree, we need more of it, and I think the gap is starting to show. You take Order 66, for example. We had Order 66. We had it, more. And now Order 66, as great as Order 66 was for a moment in Star Wars, has just turned into something that you want Order 66. Here's 18 different things with it in it. You know, pick a poison. Whatever. You want the first Death Star? There's a lot of that for good reason. But Andor feels like, kind of, in my opinion, possibly the end of the Death Star. And I don't mean permanently, but just for now. I think we're going to see a slowing down of focus on the Death Star. Because there's been quite the focus on it. And I don't just mean the Death Star, but like the idea of a super space station being found, and conspiracies and secrets and everything. Rogue One, Rebels, Andor, Resistance, even, about Starkiller Base, I think it was. You see a lot of that stuff, but yet there's not much about the second Death Star, and that was a very specifically unique moment in Star Wars, because, far as I'm aware, it was a secret, but it wasn't near to the same extent as the first Death Star was. There is a lot of opportunity there for Disney to go, and I think we're gonna see a filmmaker or two come in. And that's another thing too. When you hear people online saying that we're not gonna see another Andor, I would hold my breath, because Andor was good because of the people in charge of it. They had care, love, attention, and it was a more or less an outsider that created the show, which was Tony Gilroy. Not to sound like I'm saying something negative about Tony Gilroy. I'm not. But Tony Gilroy was not well known in the Star Wars community. We're going to see that again. They took a chance. It paid off tremendously. Why wouldn't they take that same risk? You look at, what the heck is the name? He did Love and Thunder. Thor. or Ragnarok. One of those two. Taikiti or Taikiti, something like that. He's a risk. He is a total risk. Lucasfilm has no reason. Disney has no reason to trust him. And yet they've been trying to get him to do a script for a long time. I'm not saying he's going to do something good. I'm not talking about him personally. I'm just saying the idea of taking risks on directors is becoming more commonplace. And that is a great thing for Star Wars. Because Star Wars is a genre. It really is in my eyes. And I think the more we allow people to create myths and legends in this mythos, in this genre of movie and film and adaptation and television, we're going to see amazing projects be created. You know what I mean? I mean, we're not going to have another Luthen for a long time. We're not going to have another Andor for a long time. That's 100% true. But we will have another. We will have another Luthen who lives. And by the way, don't forget. Don't let it be lost upon you the way he died. This is what I mean. The irony of it all. He lives his life in the shadows. He lives his life in action, in killing people. And then Luthen Rael goes and dies in a hospital in the middle of Coruscant, surrounded by glass windows, by having his forced breathing apparatus removed. The irony of a soldier dying a quiet death, even in Star Wars, is just, it's awesome. And I think his sacrifice was amazing. The fact that his sister was able to follow through with it no matter what was amazing. The death of Cyril, as sad as I was amazing. Dedra being thrown into Narkina, amazing. The ending for Bix, amazing. Cassian, amazing. Poe Dameron, amazing. No, but they did such a great job. They did such a great job with it. K2SO. Everything converged as it should have. I can't think of a single show in the last, 7-10 years that ended as well as this show did. And I knew it would. Maybe I'm looking at this through too much of a new shiny object, but they ended it right. They really did. Krennic, amazing. The ISB guy, amazing. The suicide of the head of the ISB. Holy Godfather, Batman, that was awesome. And again, by the secondary head of command of the ISB to the Stormtroopers. Imagine meeting the Stormtroopers, by the way. Just imagine. Of any of the Stormtroopers that we see in the show, because all this stuff is so high stakes, right? You're a Stormtrooper. You're standing there, you're just guard, doing your job, doing your duty behind a mask. You hear a gunshot. You know what just happened, and you're told, don't react. Okay, you just heard, a no-name Stormtrooper, just heard the death of the head of the ISB. You're a Stormtrooper with Krennic, right? His detail. You have to be. They were 100% specially chosen for that stuff. And yet, here he is talking about the Death Star in front of you. Okay. You know? Like, the Stormtroopers with the guy who was in charge of, who died on the raid on Luthen's assistant, the Stormtroopers who were with him talking to what's her name? Dedra, in the prison cell. Like, they're hearing this highly classified information. They're just Stormtroopers at the end of the day. Like, they are the flies on the wall. But it just goes to show that the Empire is willing to throw out so much. Willing to throw away any Stormtrooper at any given moment, that they don't care what information they hear. They don't care what they're exposed to. If they ever become an issue, they're just Stormtrooper. Whack them. You know, the tiniest little details, even like that, right? Like, the fact that a Stormtrooper, they don't care if a Stormtrooper hears about the Death Star because they know that they're expendable, shows you how evil the Empire is. And that's never stated. It's just, the genius of the small details in this show astounded me. And I think on a rewatch, this season 2 is going to go down as one of the best Star Wars pieces of story we've ever had. Save for episode 3, in my opinion. But, you know, I couldn't be more grateful for what we got with Andor. And yeah, that's an hour 10, hour 20 in. Almost an hour and a half. That's what I got. Yeah. Anybody in the comments? How you guys doing? I hope you guys are doing good. I've been spouting word vomit at you for the last hour and a half. What do you guys think? What was your guys' kind of reaction to all this? Because I'm writing my own book right now, for the record. So I'm looking at this also from a very kind of story creation way of how things tie together. And not that I'm any good, don't get me wrong, but I'm looking at this from a certain point of view that's Jedi, no, from a certain point of view, and I'm curious to see, what do you guys think? I don't know. I am going to be ending this sooner rather than later. It is officially 1 a.m., although I don't have work today. Yeah. I'm very grateful for what we have with Andor, and I don't believe anybody who says we're not going to get it again. We are going to get it again. 100% we're going to get it again. And I think we have a lot to look forward to that people don't understand. The money is there, the love is there, the passion is there, the reception is there. They're not going to throw all this momentum away. Star Wars is finally on an upswing. We've needed one since pre-Episode 7. And we finally have it. They're not going to throw that away. It's finally cool again. Star Wars is cool again. It's cool to be a Star Wars fan. I mean, I haven't felt that since Clone Wars. But that's me. All right. Anyway, long story short, 10 out of 10. Jack, thank you so much for joining the stream today. Thanks for contributing. I appreciate it. Flames, I know you've gone to bed, but I hope you have a good night's sleep. Hope you're sleeping well. Have a great night. And yeah, I'll probably be making a video or two, if not tomorrow, in the coming days. Just kind of talking about all this. I need to make a video about Cyril. I think people are getting him wrong. I really do. I think people are using him as an example for something that is the exact opposite of what it is, but that's me. Yeah, I just want to thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed. It helps the channel tremendously, shows support, also gets me motivating more videos or live streams just like this one. I do have memberships going. We have the future tier, the old tier, and the modern days tier, each one coming with its own special perks. $2, $7, $15 respectively. I will be more active in the coming weeks with those. I apologize to all my current members. I have not been doing you guys justice at all, and I recognize that, and I won't shy away from it. And yeah, just thank you guys so much for watching, and I appreciate it. I love you all. Remember, someone loves you, even if they don't know it yet. And Jesus loves you. Have a great day, you guys. May God bless you all. Take care, and I'll hope to see you all next time. Take it easy, and goodbye.